Hello and welcome to the ETHS Multi-Tiered System of Support, MTSS, Framework Part 1. With all the moving pieces here at ETHS, supports, services, interventions, professional development, committees, and resources, you'd think surely they fit together somehow, and they do. They are all part of ETHS's multi-tiered system of support. The goals of this video are to help you understand the components of ETHS's multi-tiered system of support that are already present in the building, to help you understand them as an intentional system, and to support you in identifying practices that reinforce your role as a preventionist. As you view this video and participate in the activities, please reflect on the following essential questions. What is MTSS at ETHS, and how does it exist in our building? What is my role in the ETHS multi-tiered system of support? And how can I be a preventionist? In alignment with these goals, at the conclusion of this video, you should be able to meet the following objectives. Analyze the ETHS MTSS framework to identify components that are currently in place, and identify practices specific to your role that allow you to be a preventionist. While there will be an opportunity to write questions on your exit ticket, a Q&A session will not be facilitated in this large group during the session. Index cards are available at each table. Please use as many as you'd like on which to write questions throughout this training. At the conclusion of this training, you can either turn the cards into your facilitator or type your questions into the Google Form exit ticket. Questions will be compiled, answered, and disseminated to all staff in follow-up to this session. The rhetoric at the beginning of the year often revolves around what the initiative is this year, or the anticipation of what new responsibilities we will have. Before addressing that line of thinking, let's review some terms that are not new and should be familiar to all employees. You know ETHS loves acronyms, so here we go. SOS, or Systems of Support, AM Support, PBIS, or Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, KITCASH, AIT, or the Academic Intervention Team, the 3 R's, respect for self, respect for others, respect for community, peer conference, department study centers, alternatives to suspension, and the Alternative Learning Center, or ALC. Before we go on to learn about Tier 1 supports and interventions, let's start with the ETHS definition of MTSS. As defined by the school, MTSS, or Multi-Tiered System of Support, is an integrated, comprehensive framework that focuses on core instruction, student-centered learning, and the intentional alignment of systems for all students' academic, behavioral, and social success. We can visualize MTSS as an umbrella under which each of the coordinating components fall. Core instruction, including responsive teaching, inquiry-rich classrooms, rigorous curriculum, student learning objective, or SLO, professional development, such as PLMs, all staff meetings, tech on the terrace, instructional coaching, and staff evaluation. Student-centered learning, achieved through practices such as student-centered teaching, relationship building, project-based learning, and implementation of educational technology. Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, or PBIS, implemented through the 3 R's, respect for self, respect for others, and respect for community. Alternatives to suspension, the Alternative Learning Center, or ALC, peer conference, restorative justice, and KITCASH. And response to intervention, or RTI, implemented through practices such as progress monitoring, the Student Support Team, or SST, and the Academic Intervention Team, or AIT. All staff are preventionists at Tier 1. However, some staff have a more intensive role at Tiers 2 and 3, such as counselors, social workers, psychologists, deans, nurses, the truancy officer, academic advisors, and special education teachers. So what does it mean to be a preventionist? What are we preventing against? To be a preventionist under ETHS's MTSS framework means to take action to prevent a student's academic, behavioral, or social failure. The essential question for being a preventionist is, have I done everything reasonably in my power or within my role to assist this student in achieving academic, behavioral, and social success? Now let's pause to allow further discussion of role-specific ways you can be a preventionist. Congratulations, ETHS. We are already doing the work to support students under our MTSS framework. Over the past decade, we as a school have continually increased our capacity to support students and to meet their academic, behavioral, and social needs through a multi-tiered system of supports. This year, we will focus on formalizing the framework, building our capacity to support students at Tier 1, to prevent students from needing access to Tiers 2 and 3, and understanding your role in the framework. Current examples of Tier 1 universal practices to help students in achieving academic success include inquiry-rich classrooms, responsive instruction, and disciplinary learning. Universal supports and interventions to help students in achieving behavioral success include components of PBIS as we have implemented them at ETHS, including setting behavioral expectations through the ETHS discipline philosophy and the 3 R's, and positive reinforcement through Kit Cash and events such as the Work Hard, Play Hard end-of-the-year bash. Finally, universal supports and interventions to help students in achieving social success include our inclusion statement, social consciousness series, focus on making each connection count, and our commitment to conversations about race and equity as we work to eliminate the opportunity gap. The examples I just mentioned are not an exhaustive list of Tier 1 universal supports and interventions, though they demonstrate that we have current practices covering each component of MTSS as we have defined it. Again, Tier 2 targeted supports and interventions are aimed to meet the needs of 5 to 10% of student enrollment. Some examples of existing practices at this level include AIT, Academic Intervention Team, AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination, STAY, Steps Toward Academic Excellence, attendance contracts, and social work groups. Finally, Tier 3, intensive supports and interventions ideally meet the needs of 1 to 5% of student enrollment. Some examples of existing practices at this level include FBA BIPs, Functional Behavior Analysis Behavior Intervention Plans, the pre-post hospitalization program for pregnant and parenting teens and psychiatric hospitalizations, and special education classes. Students can move between tiers depending on their need. All students are always able to access Tier 1 supports and interventions. However, they may receive Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports and interventions in addition to those in Tier 1. Remember that all students are general education students first. If you feel a student is not achieving academic, behavioral, or social success, please collaborate with the student's counselor. Specifically, how a student gains access to Tiers 2 and 3 will be addressed in a later training. Right now, it's time to bring together problem solving, current practices, and what you've learned in this training. Before concluding this session, let's take a moment to review some of the main concepts we've covered. What is new this year, or what is this year's initiative? Nothing. An initiative is a fresh approach to something, and we have been supporting students in the ways described for some time. ETHS's MTSS framework is bringing the pieces together: classroom practices and instruction, supports and interventions, PLMs, SLO, evaluation, etc., to increase understanding and faithful implementation of the system, as well as to increase our capacity to serve students within the structure of the framework. What is the goal of MTSS? The goal of MTSS is to support each student in achieving academic, behavioral, and social success by formalizing supports and interventions, both within and outside of the classroom. Through this goal, all staff have the opportunity to reflect and improve upon the ways in which they support students toward their success, and to prevent students from needing access to Tiers 2 and 3. MTSS is not a gotcha or a system to lay blame for a student's lack of success. What are the expectations for this year? The expectations for this year are that you understand ETHS's MTSS framework and focus on fulfilling your role as a preventionist in the context of the framework, specifically at Tier 1. Resources and staff development will be available to support your work in the points I just mentioned. A contact list at your table, titled Who Should I Contact for Help, has a list of names, emails, and numbers of training facilitators, staff committed to assisting you with the MTSS framework. Also at your table are 2 additional handouts, possible Tier 1 strategies and potential Tier 1 scenarios and strategies. Possible Tier 1 strategies is a list of strategies you can implement, categorized by areas of student need, such as academic, behavioral and social emotional, and organization. Students with a 504 plan or IEP must have their accommodations implemented as listed in the document. However, many of the strategies listed as accommodations or modifications benefit all students. Items in possible Tier 1 strategies are not mandatory, but offer suggestions on how to be responsive to student need, and a 504 plan or IEP is not required to use them. Potential Tier 1 scenarios and strategies has potential responses based on specific scenarios within the classroom. These documents are not intended to outline protocols or procedures, but to act as a reference for guidance in a specific situation. Each of these resources will also be available digitally through a main page under the Staff Hub on the ETHS website. This page will be updated throughout the year with additional resources. In addition to the resources you just received, there will be built-in opportunities for follow-up throughout the school year. This will take place during professional development time, such as PLMs and department meetings, as well as through your instructional coach. We anticipated that some may wonder what role instructional coaches will have in supporting staff with implementation and understanding of MTSS. By description, instructional coaches focus on supporting teachers with responsive instruction, developing curriculum, classroom management, and problem solving. MTSS, especially our focus on Tier 1 this year, is directly related to the work instructional coaches currently do, so coaches will continue to support staff in the ways they have been over the past several years. When I said that we are already doing the work here at ETHS, I meant it. This will conclude the informational portion of this presentation. If you don't already have one in front of you, please take out your electronic device. If you do not have an electronic device, please get one from your facilitator or CART, or share with a colleague. Please access the exit ticket in the email with links to resources for today's session. Then complete and submit it before leaving this session. While you have the option of submitting your name with your responses, the exit ticket is anonymous and identifying information, such as your ETHS 202 username, will not be collected. Thank you for your continued dedication to students' academic, behavioral, and social success, and go Kits!